everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. I am making a video showing you kind of what I've been up to. I told you guys yesterday when I made my more recent video, last video, that I was going to be going in and beginning the work on the 403A. You can see the pile of cotton swabs I've been using. Even though I was showing you all that you can use a wet dry vac, or I guess you could use any vacuum if you wanted, but vacuum cleaner to get out a lot of extra dust and material, you still are going to need cotton swabs. There's still a lot of cleaning to do on a machine that basically hasn't been touched in, I would say, decades. Could be 40 years for all I know. But I wanted to show you, after I did the vacuuming, you can see this is the magnificent high quality engineering that went into this machine. And of course it's more complex than a straight stitcher, right? And this is the mid-tier model. The 401A is even more complex, but you can see all of these moving parts here. And I've actually gone in, and if you're not sure where to put oil, maybe if your manual doesn't show, you may need the service manual to see that. But if you're not sure, you can actually simply push, and if your device is moving like mine was mercifully moving, where you see metal touching metal, put a drop of oil. Now, what you'll see me do very often is, this machine, normally you would oil it with 1 drop of oil in the oiling ports, or holes, I should say, in the lid, right? And underneath there's actually a little, these are not wool felt, these are actually plastic, but they're designed to wick oil down to the machine. That's great when you're simply going to oil the machine before a sewing project and your machine is fully maintenance. But this machine is dry, so again, this is not for normal oiling, but for restoring a machine. You really want to, you're going to have to give the machine more oil than 1 drop. That's just probably the case. So here's an oiling point, right? Here's a hole that puts oil right over the drive shaft. There's one. Put a couple there. I'm just putting 2 or 3 drops here. And again, I have the machine on a pad. If some of the oil drips down and off the machine onto the pad, that's fine. And I'm going here and I'm simply looking for, again, the owner's manual or even the service manual may point you there. This little spot here, I don't believe is a oiling hole, but I'm putting oil there anyway. And again, you're essentially moving the different pieces, right, to see where metal moves against metal. Now here, on this flap here that is part of the mechanism, I've actually used grease. I've gone in with my syringe and applied grease there, just so the lubrication will stay there more easily, because there's not really a joint for it to go into. Now, one of the places, it's going to be a little difficult to see these gears down in here, so I'm going to do my best to highlight them for you. It's a tough thing to put on a camera. Take my flashlight and see if you guys can see a gear, but there's a gear. The most entertaining part of this video is me trying to hold this machine with 2 hands. The gear that I'm referring to, pardon my little nudge there, the gear that I'm referring to is sitting right behind this wire, right behind this cord, and it's actually right here, right there. And if I turn this, you'll see the gear there. There's also a worm gear built into the drive shaft here that's impossible for me to get on camera, but you can get grease down in there. You can do it with, in the past I've used cotton swabs for grease, but I'm moving to a brush, or even just a hard surface piece like this cruling tool. And the reason for that is I don't want cotton fibers to get down in the machine. They've worked okay in the past, but I really prefer this. And this brush is not a fine art brush. It's not expensive. You can get these at craft stores, and they're good enough, right? You don't want to get the super cheap ones that they put in there for children's watercolor sets. But this is a little nicer than those. Now the other thing I wanted to do is there's a set of gears that rolls against the worm gear on this drive shaft, and they're actually down in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I've already done this and gone around, but I'll just do a little sample of it for you. You see where I put the grease right there. Now I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to come around and push that grease down into those gears, okay? I don't need tons of grease to sit on top because it's not doing anything. I want it down in here where my gears are, so that as this dry shaft moves, it's turning this disc, which is what my cam sits on, right? And that's going to allow me to get those wonderful decorative stitch patterns that Singer was all about in 1956-57. Anyway, so that has been done. If we, yeah, let's see, I think in terms of lubrication, I've cleaned this out. Again, you're going to see some dust sometimes. I've cleaned out and vacuumed out. I'm not polishing the inside of the machine. That's not really functional or aesthetic. It's like the inside of an engine bay in a car, if you will. But it needs to be clean and it needs to be lubricated, and all of these pieces have been. Now, we will move our way back down and I'll show you guys the other areas I've been working on. Okay, so now we're here over to the left side of the machine, and you can see the presser bar. You can see the needle bar. This is what was called Singer's floating needle bar, and when we take a look at how it makes stitches later on, you'll see that. And of course here, I didn't have as much dust. In fact, I can't remember if I put the vacuum here or not. But this is, of course, where you'll take your... Okay guys, this is of course the, as I was saying, this is the sidebar of the side compartment with your presser bar, your needle bar. Most of this involved going in with alcohol and my cotton swabs and literally going in and cleaning these different parts. They weren't terribly dirty, but remember, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and you want to be sure that you've gotten dust and dirt out of here. There's a little bit, not a ton. Back here, you will see that, if I zoom in for you, you might see better. Notice that there is a slot here, and you'll see it because you'll see there's a piece attached to your presser bar lifter, and it's like a big hinge, right? And that I used grease. I put grease in this slot, and then I also put some, which you can access the spot right here, get some grease in there. Let me just do it for you so you can see, right? Just a little dab, not a ton. And then of course, this grease will sit here, and you won't have to oil that area as often, and that's okay. It's all right if you need to do that. Again, you don't want to flood any machine with grease and oil. If you do, it's wasteful, and B, it can actually, it's just going to be a magnet for attracting lots of lint, which you don't want to do. So there you go. By the way, if you're in here, look for any thread remnants that might be left, and be sure to get like dust off of the top of here. Let me show you. This is the presser bar pressure control knob. I like these set up here. They're very simple to use. Now, there was dust and dirt in here. I vacuumed, and then I went in and used my alcohol to remove it before I put the oil. Because if you put oil on top of dirt, you're just creating a really messy, nasty problem that you're going to have to clean up later, and it's not particularly fun to do. So again, if you're not sure about those oiling points, take a look at your manual. Your user manual should cover these. And when in doubt, you watch for these pieces that move. You just move I'm turning the hand wheel by hand, and you can see metal pieces that move. And I'm just, again, putting these, sometimes one drop will do, right? But again, it's okay if you need to use a little bit of extra oil. You don't need to make a mess, but you need to sort of prime. It's like priming a pump, if you will. So let's see. Last thing I want to show you is underneath. Let's see, guys, I think I'm going to get a little lower with the camera. Okay, that's a little bit better angle for you guys to be able to see what I'm up to down here. So down here, I pretty much did the same thing. Again, normally you might put 1 drop of oil. I ended up putting several in each of these points. They were just starving for any kind of lubrication. You can go, don't forget, by the way, I'm going to point some of these out to you guys. This little pivot hinge, if you will, this is attached to, it's not really a hinge, this mechanism is attached to the device that helps you raise your feed dog plate, your needle plate, so you can do darning. That had no oil, it needed some. And I'm going, again, normal oiling points might be shown on your manual, but come back here and turn some stuff and you'll see where metal moves against metal, and that's where you want to start oiling. And I basically did this in all of these points. Any pivot points where metal needs to move against metal, they were engineered and designed for lubrication. Let's give the machine what it needs. You will also see when I turn the lever for the feed dog plate, notice when I turn it, this piece moves, right? This is one of the reasons you want, when you have things that are moving freely but not lubricated, this is where you want to turn your knob so you can tell what's moving here, right? So you can use oil. I ended up putting a dab of grease here and underneath here so that when this piece slides, it has the lubrication it was meant to have. If your machine doesn't and you're thinking, gosh, this machine's awfully stiff and slow, that's the reason. Okay, I promised you guys that I would show you the gears down here, because those are, of all the things, these are some of the simplest to grease. And again, this is where I ended up using my syringe. I would simply put some here and then take my old, now beaten paintbrush and simply spread the grease here on the gear. Now, as soon as you turn the gears, for those of you who are new, the grease is going to get squeezed out. That's how it works, right? And don't worry, it's like, oh, it's going to get squeezed out. They won't be lubricated. They actually will. They don't require a massive, giant blob of grease to swim in. Now, if you have a machine, some of the machines you may have seen from the 60s have these little boxes, and they're where two gears meet. Often they'll encase that, and that, of course, you can put in a large amount of grease. But for these, you just need to make sure the gears are coated, and the grease is thick enough. It's gonna be there for a while. I'm not really worried about that. One last thing to mention while we're under here is I was cleaning out the feed dogs, and I did use my vacuum, but it wasn't enough. Look at this. I pulled out this giant, massive monster dust bunny of lint, and some of this came from up top, but some of it also, you want to look here down below, because this is right below the feed dogs. And a lot of times when if the lint's heavy enough and there's enough of it, it actually came and formed a little nest. There was lint sitting down in here. So I went in and I was able to pull all this out. I decided not to make a 30-minute video, you guys watching me pull it out. But these are the things I'm trying to point to, is this machine, because it can do more, it is more complex. And so it has more nooks and crannies and levers and mechanical pieces that need to be cleaned of lint, right? And by the way, I cleaned that lint before I did any of the greasing or oiling down here. That's also really important to remember. So now that I've kind of shown you what was underneath, let's come back, and when we look at the bobbin area, again, when you're trying to clean lint that's not been cleaned in God knows how many years, you can use a lint brush. I like these because they have this little bottle washer brush here that's really stiff, and this one here is a little softer. And again, this machine is not all that difficult to clean the lint out of. You just want to be sure that you haven't missed any, and it's very easy to do. So all in this area here, underneath your feed dogs, back in here, and then both sides here, you can find this area, and there was a ton of lint in here, and all this came up. Then I took a cotton swab, cleaning the little tracks for my bobbin plate. 1 drop of oil. This is not a normal oiling point, but again, when you have a machine, again, metal to metal, it doesn't look mechanical, but in a simple way it is, and now it slides beautifully. It wasn't fighting me before, but again, if you're going to do the machine, just go ahead and get it done. And you, this is a basic, a good, nice, fast way to clean your feed dog area. Okay, and when you're going to fully remove this, there are ways to remove both the bobbin case and the shuttle. But for today, I just kind of wanted to show you guys, if you're not ready to take that on, you think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This thing's a mess. You can clean it, and it's very clean now. You can put 1 drop here and 1 drop here on the rim of the race. And be sure you've gotten as much lint as possible as you can get out of here. Let's see, the next thing that I will be taking on will be the tension discs. They turn, they work, right? When I push this, this moves. I can tell I've got movement here, so that's good. Because if you don't, that's a separate problem. But I need to take this out. I notice a little oxidation on this spring, not sure why, from moisture maybe. But the spring is in great shape otherwise. I mean, has a lot of life in it. I just want to take it out, and I like to clean the discs. It looks like they may never have been removed, who knows? Maybe they were taken apart once in the 1960s, who knows? But anyway, this will be coming apart like you guys have seen me do on other machines. And I will be doing this. As you can see, I'm overhauling this machine in sections because I can't do all of this in one setting. To do it with the thorough cleaning and lubrication that it requires. But again, these machines were an engineering marvel in their time. I think I'm correct in that Singer was the first company to use a drop-in bobbin, a flat bobbin that faced towards you instead of the plate being on the side. You guys correct me if I missed that. Oh, by the way, one last thing. Here's that giant lever I was talking to you about with the mechanism that you saw sliding underneath. It's like, oh, it's magic. Oh no, there's a mechanism underneath. And so if yours doesn't work, if it's stuck, don't force it. You can clean this area out. You can oil from here underneath. And then once I had this area cleaned, I actually put a drop of oil here and here. Because you can see these they look like little cylinders. They move. You know, again, they're moving in metal against metal here. So let's get the needle out of the way, and then we'll slip our plate back in. Boom. So the Singer 403A, dirty on the outside, but pretty darn dry on the inside. And so we are slowly but surely bringing the old girl back. If you have a Slant-O-Matic, one of the 3 Slant-O-Matics from Singer, 1956-57, share your thoughts on what you think of it. Does it cause you problems, or does it give you great hours of sewing pleasure, or maybe both? I don't know. But anyway, we have more to do. We've got our tire to restore. That's easy. The hand wheel will be coming off. The motor will be coming out. But we're just moving around section by section, and that's basically how I approach when you're taking on a machine here that is, not only does it require full overhaul, as all of mine do, but there's a lot to overhaul. There's a lot more to it, and the 401A is even more complex in many ways. Thanks for watching, folks. I am going to keep working on this machine and make a decision if I want to hold on to it. I've mentioned many times I'm in love with the table it came in, but I've said this before, and I've always found a new home for a machine, even if it was one that I liked. So I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, but we will see as it goes along. Thanks for watching.